Welcome back to Outside Views, and today we're going to dive into the news that has sent shockwaves through the entire British political establishment. The far-right populist party Reform UK, led by Nigel Farage, has just received one of the largest single donations in UK history. The sum is £9 million, over 10 million euros, given by a businessman named Christopher Harborne in the third quarter of this year. And my personal view is that this is not just a huge number. This is a defining moment that signals a fundamental and deeply unsettling shift in the power dynamics of UK politics. It's the moment where the anti-establishment right-wing populist movement has been officially bankrolled into a serious contender for power. The fact that the Reform UK's total donations of £10.5 million during that quarter surpassed both the governing Labour Party and the opposition Conservatives is a physical manifestation of a political revolution being bought by a handful of super wealthy individuals. For years, Reform UK, which was founded as the Brexit Party, struggled to raise serious money. But now they have a game-changer war chest ahead of pivotal local and devolved elections next May and the next general election in 2029, although 4 devolved elections will not take part, as you already know. But the sheer scale of this donation, the largest ever from a living person to a UK party, is, to use the words of another donor, absolutely staggering. And it serves as the biggest fuck you imaginable to the traditional party of the right, the Conservatives, who are now being actively supplanted by Farage's machine. And the man behind this astonishing injection of cash is Christopher Harborne, an aviation entrepreneur and cryptocurrency investor who lives in Thailand, where he is known by the name Chakrit Sangkutkrit. He's a Cambridge and INSEAD graduate, a trained pilot and a former management consultant at McKinsey who made his early millions in aviation fuel. But his true fortune exploded after he made an early bet on crypto, trading Bitcoin from 2011 and Ethereum from 2014. His Ethereum investment alone now accounts for a major portion of his net worth. And to understand Harborne's significance, you have to look back at the origins of the Brexit movement. Harborne previously gave over £10 million to Farage's Brexit party to fund its 2019 general election campaign. And that money allowed Farage to apply intense pressure on Westminster to deliver a hard, full withdrawal from the European Union, a decision I believe was a terrible mistake. The donor is described by one associate as viewing the UK like a mathematical equation that is producing the wrong answer, and he's now putting his immense wealth to work to fundamentally recode that equation. What makes Harborne so deeply fascinating and to my mind concerning is the sheer transactional nature of his political loyalty. He's a man who seems to hedge his political bets across the entire right of the political spectrum. After the 2019 election, he switched allegiance, donating £1.5 million to the Conservative Party and a further £1 million to Boris Johnson's private office after he left Downing Street. One senior Reform figure justified this flip by saying it was all about getting Brexit done, and Boris Johnson was the man who ultimately delivered it. But this willingness to fund all sides of the Get Brexit Done narrative exposes a kind of political merchant adventurism that is deeply cynical. And the ultimate question is, what does he want in return? Farage himself insists that Harborne wants absolutely nothing in return at all, and simply thinks they haven't made the most of Brexit. However, the alignment of his financial interests with Reform's political platform is too neat to ignore. Harborne's fortunes are tied up in the opaque world of cryptocurrency, where he is a major shareholder in Tether, the issuer of the biggest stablecoin. And Nigel Farage, in turn, has made a point of courting crypto investors, going so far as to promise to slash capital gains tax on crypto if Reform wins power. And the party embraces the sector far more enthusiastically than the current government. And it creates an environment where a mega donor, whose wealth is heavily concentrated in a volatile, lightly regulated asset class, is bankrolling a political movement that explicitly promises to create a more favorable tax and regulatory regime for that exact asset class. And this is not simply a matter of shared ideology. This looks like an investment with a highly anticipated political dividend. Beyond crypto, Harborne also took a major stake in the British defense company Synetic in May 22, becoming its largest shareholder. And this coincided with defense being high on the agenda following Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Later, he traveled to Ukraine with Boris Johnson, who continues to be a strong supporter of the country's defense. And the timing and strategic nature of this defense investment, coupled with his political access, raised serious questions about the influence of private wealth in national security policy. And furthermore, a former co-leader of Reform, Ben Habib, who has since fallen out with Farage, condemned Harborne's donations to the Conservatives and Johnson, stating, "I think it's rotten. Harborne is on every side of the trade." And this is the heart of the issue. When one person is a major financial backer of the party that delivered the economic disaster, the party that is now trying to fix it, and the party that wants to tear it all down again, it suggests a power player more interest in buying access and securing personal financial hedges than upholding a consistent political vision. And the sheer size of this £9 million donation completely skews the political playing field. The Electoral Commission data shows that Reform UK brought in £10.5 million in the quarter, compared to the Conservatives' £7 million and Labour's £2.6 million. And this means that a single individual's cheque gave a party that was previously financially constrained a larger war chest than either of the two major parties. And I'm not meaning the envy part here. The campaign groups like Transparency International and Spotlight on Corruption are rightly renewing calls for a cap on political donations. When a single, intensely private businessman living overseas can pour so much money into the system, it reinforces the public's worst fears that democracy is becoming a commodity and that money talks loudest in the corridors of power. And this massive donation arrives at a moment when Reform UK is surging in the polls, and some polls show them in the lead, or most of them now do that, with one even suggesting they are on course for an outright majority in the next general election. And this financial backing, coupled with their electoral momentum, creates a potent and dangerous force. It allows them to flood the airwaves, hire staff, and project an image of inevitability, all powered by the vast wealth of a handful of individuals whose interests may not and likely do not align with the average voter. The common thread between Farage and Harborne, beyond their shared political aim to disrupt the UK, is strangely poetic. They both have survived plane crashes. Farage's light aircraft crashed in 2010 and the plane Harborne was piloting crashed in 2008. Both recovered from serious injuries and both are now attempting to overturn Britain's entire political order. And this shared history, this merchant adventurer spirit, is a powerful metaphor for their politics. A reckless, high-risk approach to the national interest. And this record-breaking donation is a huge blow to the integrity of the UK's political finance system. It confirms that the new populist insurgency is not primarily funded by small grassroots donations, but by mega donors with specific financial interests in a post-Brexit, lightly regulated, crypto-friendly nationalist UK. And the debate should now shift from if Reform can win to who is paying for them to win, and what the public will ultimately be required to pay in return.